pray for us. Father, I pray you help us with this ancient language. I pray you encourage us. I pray you'll be honored by what we do today. And I pray that this will be a great tool for us to see the glories of the biblical theology that you have placed in the text. And pray you use the text to make us better people. And we pray all this in Christ's name. Amen. So, just to recap, originally Hebrew had no vowels. So when you come to a Hebrew text, there is no A, E, I, O, and U in the original things. Those were added maybe 400 AD. So it's a system that they came up with to tell us how the text was pronounced, but it's a clunky system. So it's not as clunky as a system that they use in Syriac. That one's impossible. Like they use upside down Greek letters and place them all different. This is a little more consistent with that, but it is a clunky system. And so don't think you have to memorize this in a way that you're always going to get everything right, because I don't know anybody who can get it right every time. But I want you to know the basics, that you've got some consonantal letters. These are called historically or unchangeably long. The A class, the E class, the I class, the O class, and the U class. Long letters, but changeably long. We only have 3, A and E and the holum, which is written above the letter. Then we have short letters. And basically the rule to remember is that the farther away you get from the accent of the word, the more short the letter is going to become. And so this is A, E, I, O, and U. And notice, all of these are pronounced exactly the same. I suppose technically the long ones are pronounced a little longer, and the changeably long are a little long, and the short ones are shorter. And then you've got like the hataf vowels, which we're calling the half vowels, or some people call them the very short vowels. But notice they're all basically still pronounced the same, but just shorter time. So the chart, you want to kind of have the chart in your mind, but realize that the real thing you want to do is listen to a native speaker and copy what they do. That's going to be our rule. So let's just go over the alphabet, and if you'll say it with me. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kop, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samik, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tav. So there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. In our pronunciation, there are 2 different pronunciations for the 21st letter. Remember, sin is always on the left. It's what my very liberal Hebrew professor told me, sin's always on the left, which I think that's so funny. I mean, he was a funny teacher. Notice the Begad Kafats originally, the dot in a Begad Kafat takes out the H sound. So this is B and this is BH or V. All of these, if it doesn't have the dot, it has an H sound originally. By the time we get to modern pronunciation, only these three are differentiated. The rest are undifferentiated with the H sound and not the H sound. Different ways to look at the vowels. So this is called a kametz. This is a patach. This is a hatef patach, a half patach. And so you get ah, ah, ah. And this is a long, short, very short. A, eh. So serei, segol, hatef segol, a half segol. And then if I had been on the ball when I had done this, I would have done it where I put the Hirik Yod first, because this is the long one, and then this is the shorter one. So Hirik Yod, Eem, like Elohim, that's a sound. I, as in hit. Same with this. I should put these backwards. This is the long version, a holem vav versus a holem. Kibbutz is your short U sound, and shurik is your long U sound. And then a kametz hatuf is a hatef kametz, or a kametz half. But notice that's an A-class vowel, and this is an O-class vowel. But if you think about it in English, we don't differentiate between ah, and the O in odd. Both those are exactly the same sounds, but they're spelled two different ways in English. I guess that's what's going on here. Another person summarized it this way. But what we want to do is we want to listen to our guy read it. Let's read this over and over. And so let me see if we have internet and we can listen to him, and then we'll read it. So it says I have access, so we will. The sound isn't. I guess we won't be able to listen to him. But we've done enough where we'll do it together. So I'll read it and then you read it with me. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et ha'aretz. Ve'ha'aretz hayita tohu vavohu. Ve'hoshak al pnei tehom. Ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. Vayomer Elohim, Yehi or, Va Yehi or, Vayar Elohim et haor kitov, Va Yavdel Elohim bein haor uvein hachoshek, Vayikra Elohim laor yom, Ve lachoshek kara layila, Vayihi erev, Vayihi boker yom ehad. So see if you can read with me to hear. So let's read this together. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et ha'aretz. So that's your metheg. This is called a sof pasuk. Whenever you have a sof pasuk, one back from it, you're going to have a metheg. Metheg means bridle, so you slow that one down. That lets you know where the end of the sentence is. Now, I'm going to print out a sheet for you. You know how I said my professor said you can write all of Hebrew grammar on front of one sheet and back of another. I'm not sure if this is what his sheet looks like, but this is what mine looks like. So basically, this is the verb chart for the entire year. So we're going to take a year and we're going to learn that. What we need to know right now is that the Hebrew verb system is based on 7 binyans. Okay, call is the simple, that's what it means. So I paint. The PL is the intensive, so like I slock paint everywhere, throw paint everywhere. Hefil is the causative. I cause someone to paint my house. Then these 3 are the passive of these 3. So I paint, I was painted. That's what a nifal is. I schlock paint everywhere. Paint was schlocked everywhere. I caused someone to paint. I was caused to paint. And then the hithpael is the reflexive. I paint myself. So, unfortunately, the paradigm word in Hebrew for your verb chart is katal, and it's the word kill. You know, Latin has the word love, Greek has the word loose. Hebrew, the one they use is kill because it's the most regular verb there is. So this is I kill, I slaughter, I cause someone else to kill, I kill myself, I was made to slaughter, I was made to kill, I was slaughtered, I was killed. So you've got a menorah, simple, intensive, causative, reflexive, passive, causative, passive, intensive, passive. 7 binyans. These are the most common names. Every now and then you'll see it written this way, the grund stem, the doubled stem, the H stem, the hithpael doubled, because you double the middle radical, and you double the middle radical here. The passive causative, the passive intensive, and the passive. Question? So this means simple. And these names go back to an original paradigm word, pa'al. And pa'al means something like act. But we don't use that anymore because pa'al is an irregular verb. So if we memorize the points to pa'al, it would only work for pa'al. It wouldn't work for... So all of these are from the pa'al, and this just means simple, but they found a verb that would actually do them all, and they call it, like Germans call it this. But this is the chart. And basically in the chart, you only have to memorize this column and then the first row across. And then you could fill it out if you had to, but you don't have to. So we're gonna take a whole year and we'll memorize those like the back of our hand. And then we'll kind of memorize that, and we'll be able to figure out the rest of these forms. So the whole year, all we've got to do is memorize this one chart in one column. So that's the first page. So now we're on the half page. So this is the word horse. This is the word female horse. This is a bunch of horses. This is a bunch of female horses. And this is how you say of a horse, of a female horse. So those of you who have Greek, remember all those charts that we learned for nouns? Okay, that's all you have to learn for nouns in Hebrew. Then you have suffixes that you can put on the end of a noun or a verb. And so we'll have to memorize this chart like the back of our hand. And that'll tell me like Suso is his horse, Susa is her horse, Suska is your horse if you're a man, Susek is your horse if you're a woman. Susi is my horse. And Susam is their horse. Susan is their horse if they are women. Susakim is y'all plural's horse. Susakin is y'all plural horse if the you are women. Susenu is our horse. So we have to memorize this chart like the back of our hand. And we can memorize the numbers if we want. It's interesting in Hebrew, if the word is masculine, then if you want to talk about one, the one is feminine. And if it's feminine, then you've got to put the masculine with it for 1 to 10. So it's like a little married couple, like one horse. You've got to make one a man and one a woman, right? So that's kind of weird that you have two different ways to do numbers. But once you get beyond 10, they don't do that anymore. They just go with these. And then these are your 100 numbers. So we'll kind of get to where we can do that. And then this chart, and look what's left. That's the entirety of the Hebrew language. So, like, if we could take that chart and just, like, put it in, like, memorize some Hebrew words and you've got Hebrew grammar. That's not hard, is it? So, basically, once we get over the font and figuring out how to read these little vowels, the actual grammar of it is really easy. So you with me? That's what we're going to take the whole year, if you take it for a year, whole year to learn. Just that page. So I'm actually pronouncing the letter under it as an A. Haaretz.
That answers my second question. Where does the letter underneath go?
Right, so va'et. So this is, you're not actually saying it, so you're getting the A from there. V'haaretz. And then these are separate syllables. Ha, ye, ta.
So what is the linguistic benefit of having a pair of silent letters?
Sorry?
What is the linguistic benefit of having a pair of silent letters? Like we have these letters that we just never say them.
So I don't think anybody really knows. There are 4 letters that people count as gutturals. This silent letter, which is odd to count as a guttural, and then the letter. So if this is kind of nothing, this is the voiced nothing. So an aleph and an ayin. And then a lot of people will put the hey and the chet. Hey, chet as gutturals. And then resh, technically, I guess, is not a guttural, but they treat it like a guttural. You can't double a guttural in Hebrew. Other letters you can double, but gutturals you can't. But that's the system they came up with. And you can, like I've got a computer program that will turn the dots on and off, the pointing they call it. And people who like live in Israel, their newspapers don't have any of these dots. The only newspapers that will have the dots is if you just move to Israel and you're still learning the language, you can get a newspaper with the dots. But if you buy anything with the dots, people kind of know you can't really read the language. So, but fortunately for us, the printed Bible has the dots. So, which is a good thing because we're learning to read. So in your chapter study notes, I've included a resource by John Joseph Owens called the Analytical Key to the Old Testament, and we'll call this AKOT, A-K-O-T. You can get it in Logos. I bought it in Logos, but it's expensive. I think I paid about $200 for it. I bought this resource when it was only in paper form in the early 90s, and I paid $200 for it then, so I've actually spent $400 on this 4-volume set, but I use it every time I read the Hebrew Bible, and it's as close to Zerwick as you can get if you've taken Greek. They don't have a Hebrew Zerwick, but this is as close as you can get. And the nice thing about AKOT is he includes every word in the order. So, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim. And he tells you what it is. So like this is 2 words. It's a preposition be plus a noun feminine singular construct. So in the beginning of, and people debate whether this is a true construct or not. So some people are not going to put the of there. In the beginning of God creating the heavens and the earth was without form. That's how he's parsing it. And then he links it to the standard grammar. So this is Gesenius couch. And if you have it in Logos, if you click on that, it will take you to the article where they discuss this, whether it's a construct or not. And this will take you to the place in Brown Driver Briggs where the word's looked up. So AKOT is a great thing. It's almost as good as Zerwick, but not quite. But you can see, they do that for every verse, you can see how valuable that is because he's going to give you the words you don't know. Now, there is one hard concept in Hebrew. And I've been working in Hebrew 36 years. I still don't quite get it, but I'm going to explain it to you. And you see if you get it better than I did, but it's weird. It's weird to me and a lot of people. And what it has to do is with this verb system. Hebrew only has 2 tenses, a perfect and an imperfect. So you could translate this, he killed. So it's third masculine singular from katal, he killed. So katal, katala, she killed. Katalta, you man killed. Katalt, you woman killed. Katalti, I killed. Right? You with me? In English, what would you call what I just did in terms of tense? What tense would that be? He killed, she killed, you killed. Past simple. Okay, the imperfect, he will kill, you will kill, she will kill. So, he will kill, she will kill, you man will kill, you woman will kill, I will kill. What would that be in English? In terms of tense. Okay. So, that's what it is. That's what it is in Hebrew. But here's the problem. Those are the only 2 tenses you have in Hebrew. And this one can be a future, or it can be a past progressive. He was killing. So you've got a tense that can either be a past progressive or a future progressive. And you've got a perfect that can be you did it. So the imperfect implies some kind of continual nature, and it can be in the past or in the future. And the perfect implies simple action, and it's completed, but that can be a simple past. That's weird, right? So you come to a text and you're reading it, and you don't know whether it's talking about something that happened in the past continually or something that will happen in the future. You have to decide based on other things which one of those is true. So I'm told, I don't know these languages, but I'm told that there's some African language that still do this, where you've got basically in technical terms, I think, you would say that this is not technically a tense, it's an aspect. It's a type of action, a completed action versus an incompleted action. So I don't get that because I grew up with tenses and, we do aspect by added words. But they do aspect with just these two, and then the time element's going to be implied by other things. So here's the hard part. Whenever you're in a story and you're describing something that happened, this is the way you tell the story. Bereshit bara Elohim. God created the heavens and the earth. And this bara is a call, third masculine singular, perfect, from bara. He created. Whenever you're telling a story, the first one establishes like when stuff happened. And then after that, you put all the rest of them in the opposite one. And he was saying, and he was seeing, and he was separating. And so this is going to be called a converted imperfect. So you start with a perfect, and then if you're telling a story, you might have 30 verbs that follow, and all 30 of those verbs, if they occur first in the sentence, are going to be converted imperfects. So as an American English speaker, it looks like it says, God created the heavens and the earth, and he was saying, and he was seeing, and he was doing, and he was separating, and he was calling. Because when you're telling a story, it has what's called a sequence of tenses. And it can work the other way. If you start with an imperfect, all the rest of them are going to be converted perfects. And he kept pleading, and he said, and he saw, and he... So the first one establishes it, and then all the ones that follow in parallel are going to be the other one, and they call them converted perfects or imperfects. Yeah, when you read it and it doesn't make sense, think that's a converted imperfect. The nice thing about ACOT is ACOT will tell you if it's a converted. So, or some people call them Vav consecutives. That's what he's using. So we have a consecutive. So this is Vav consecutive call, Vav consecutive call. So the first one, call perfect, notice he doesn't have a consecutive there. So he's going to tell you if it's a converted form or if it's just the normal form. Typically, not always, but typically, when you see the dot in the yod, that lets you know it's a converted form. So this is converted, this is converted, this is converted. Other people call them Y-Yiktol forms, like they're just spelling it out in Hebrew. There's no real preference. You'll hear very good scholars use all those terms. Vav consecutive, Vav, a converted Vav, or a Y-Yiktol, but they're all telling you the same thing. This is in a narrative thing where the first one establishes the tense, and then all the following ones are going to be in the opposite one according to the chart. You with me? Okay, how many vote that that's kind of weird? But it's consistent. So in the Bible, that's how every story works. First one, and then all the rest of them are in the opposite. The other beautiful thing that we can do in the time that we have left is, for me, one of the things that I absolutely love about the Hebrew language, and that is the ability to do an exegetical outline. So we know this one already. In the beginning, he created. Who is the he? The he is Elohim. The et shows what he created. So he, Elohim, created the heavens and the earth. Then we have three noun statements. And the earth was tohu vabohu and hoshek. And there is no verb there, so you have to supply the word is, I suppose, or was. And hoshek was on the faces of the tehom. And the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of Elohim, was piel, hovering over the faces of the water. So if you hovered over the face of the waters, it would be like this. I don't know what piel hovering would be. Some kind of intense hovering. Some of the Targums, or one of the Judaica documents, interprets this as an attack. I don't think that's right, because I think the word means love, lovingly hover over. That's how it's used in Deuteronomy. But whatever it is, it's intense enough where the writer puts it in the piel. And if you see Akot, he tells us it's a piel participle. And it's feminine because ruach is feminine, feminine singular, and rahaf is the word, and it means moving in the basic form of the word. But I want you to look at something beautiful here. And Elohim saw, and Elohim divided, and Elohim called. It seems like there's one more there. Oh, and Elohim said, I think, up here. Vayomer, Vayar Elohim, Vayomer Elohim, Vayar Elohim, Vayavdel Elohim, Vayikra Elohim. You see how that's a repeated pattern? So in Hebrew, it's very common to put the subject after the verb. So you've got the verb first. So Elohim said, Elohim saw, Elohim divided, and Elohim called. I've been studying Hebrew 36 years, and I finally found out what this is. This is a device that they use if they want to make sure you separate these two words. So often when you have a word that looks similar, or even letters that look similar, they'll put this line. So if you had a word Elohim and the next word started with a mem, you'd put that line there to let you know not to read it as one letter. And evidently there are two words like kaf tor. If you read it as two words, it means one thing, and if you read it as one word, it means something else. And so they'll put the line in there to make sure, don't pronounce it like the other word. It is two words. So learn something new every day, which is nice. Notice the parallelism. So Elohim caused a division between the light and between the darkness. God called to the light, and God called to the darkness. And there was evening, and there was morning, day one. So, what we want to do for next time is we're just still getting down the alphabet. We want to kind of get this chart down a lot better, get these letters, and we want to listen to the guy read so that we can read as much of this with him as possible. I would say right now, I would hope you could read to there. Maybe tomorrow, maybe to there. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim va'et ha'aretz ve'ha'aretz hayita tohu va'vohu ve'hoshek al pnei tehom. So if you could have that down. Questions or comments or observations? Well, let me ask you this, particularly those of you who've had Greek. Tell me how easy it is to not read Greek, like in the summer. How easy is it not to? Yeah. So, did you find yourself struggling with, like, wanting to keep your Greek up and finding it very easy not to keep your Greek up? So that's a pretty common thing, and I'm not, but I will give you a strategy that will help with it. And I've never seen another successful strategy like, and everybody faces what we're facing. How do you keep your language up? The way I've had a lot of success is with a document like this that eventually, like, I have incorporated this document into my prayer time, and I'll use these verses to pray through. And I do them in both languages because I want to keep both my languages up. And I change it around every now and then. I'll, like a different verse, and I'll move it up and move the others down. But these are the ones that are on my document right now. And if you ever are in my office, you'll see I've got this verse plastered everywhere. It's by the door, it's on my computer monitor, it's everywhere. See if you can help me understand what this verse says, or can you understand any of this word? Velohenu bashamayim kol asher chafetz asa. Any of those words sound familiar to you? I think it's from Psalm 115:3, but any of those words sound familiar? Velohenu Bashamayim Kol Asher Hafetz Asa. Right? And anybody know what that is? It is in the heavens. Our God, our Elohim, is in the heavens. Everything which he delighted in, he did. Some people try to make this a prophetic future. Everything he delighted in, he will do. It could be that, given that these aren't tenses, these are kind of actions. But it could be saying that he has done everything, and so when I'm faced with a difficulty in my life, I shouldn't think of it that somehow, oh, this is outside of God's plan, that he knows exactly what I need to conform me to the image of Jesus. And Veluhenu Bashamayim Kol Asher Hafetz Asa. That's my verse in the dark when life has fallen apart. That, and so that's an important verse for me, and I pray through it every time I study God's Word. I start with these verses. Love this verse. This one in Greek says, the one having my commandments and carefully keeping them, that is the one who loves me. And the one who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I will love him, and I will disclose myself to him. And I think that's great if I was the kind of person who could carefully keep God's commandments. Right? This is really good news if I can carefully keep. So I kind of go to this promise of the new covenant, and Yahweh God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed in order to love the Yahweh. That's really interesting. Your God with all your heart, with all your soul, in order that you live. So right there, okay, I'm reviewing my Greek and Hebrew, but oh my goodness, I've got some great biblical theology there, because this is saying if you love God and keep his commandments, God's going to reveal himself, and like, man, that would be great if I could do it. And then this promise that God's going to circumcise my heart. And I don't know, some people probably wouldn't put this one as to read every day, but this one really encourages me. I'll read it with you. We became like one who is unclean. All of us did. And look at this exegetical outline. All of us, all of us, all of us. We became like one who is unclean, all of us. And like a garment of pollution are all our righteous acts. We fade like a leaf, all of us do. And our iniquities, like a ruach, they lift us away. There's no one calling on your name, no one rousing themselves to seize upon you. Because you've hidden your face from us, you have melted us in the hands of our iniquity. But now, O Yahweh, you are our Father. You ever wonder where Jesus got that pray our Father? He got it from right here. Now, O Yahweh, you are our Father. And we are often translated clay, but it's really mud. You are our Father. We are the mud, but you are the fashioner. And the work of your hands are all of us. So that same verse that says our righteousness is filthy rags is the verse that says, Yahweh, you are our Father, and you're... Okay, I read that every day. I want to read that every day because it makes me remember I'm not nearly as great as I think I am, and I'm not nearly as so bad off that God can't make something great out of me. That's a great verse. I pray the Lord's Prayer. What's that? Most of it. But I'm not reading English too, so I mean.
That just means it takes longer.
So I do this one every day. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Can you guess what that is? It's the Shema, Hear, O Israel. The Lord our God is one Lord, and you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Oh, you got to see this one. Oh, 10 Commandments. Oh my goodness, solid gold in Hebrew. Like, oh my goodness, it's so good. We'll do it another day. But this one is the one that gets me. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This one was in the beginning with God. So where did he get this idea of plurality within the basic unity of God? And notice, Bereshit, bara, in the beginning he created, and who is the he? The he is Elohim, plural. So you've got a he who's also a they, and this is talking about a he who's also a they. All things were made through him. What's the Hebrew term for all things? Heaven and earth. And apart from him, there was made not one thing. And then I just like what David says in Psalm 51, in the beginning, Elohim created everything, and create for me, O Elohim, a lave tahor, a pure heart. How do you get a pure heart? Well, did God create this out of nothing? Well, could he create this out of nothing too? What came about in him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the earth was tohu vabohu, and Hoshek was on the face, and the Ruach Elohim was lovingly hovering over the faces of the water. Are those connected? God said, let there be light, and the light was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness. Are these passages connected? And this is from, I think, 2 Corinthians 5. And the God saying, from darkness light will shine. Okay, this blows my mind. Remember how we talked about these can be converted perfects and imperfects? How is Paul reading this? He's reading it as a future, right? He's not reading it as a jussive, which is the way we all read it. He's actually saying it's a future. Light will shine. So the point is, get a blank document, find the verses that you're absolutely in love with. The ones you really like, meditate on. Put the original language in there and start praying through that as part of your, and what you'll find is that those passages will just jump off the page, and you'll see things in those passages that you've never seen before, and all the while you're actually keeping your languages alive. So I've found this really helpful. I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll do my prayers where I type them out, like in English, but I'll put verses in the original, and then I'll put my prayers of those verses, and I'll go back and work through those prayers and change them sometimes. And I've found that like so rewarding. And it's a way to keep your languages up by using stuff that you love anyway to kind of help you remember the language. So I don't know, you'll have to tell me if you find that helpful or not, but I found it solid gold, helpful. So, all right, well, that's what I have for you today, and